What is good, guys? It's Ollie back again with another episode on the Evo 5 build. Now, if you guys have ever got to this situation where you've mounted up an intercooler but you don't want to pay 650 quid or sometimes more for some intercooler piping, now hopefully this video will help you out. Another thing, another reason why I am going down the route of making my own intercooler piping for the 5 is that we're using an Evo 7 to 9 intercooler. Now obviously that's not meant to fit on this car. However, in a previous video you will have seen that I have bolted it up using brackets that I made to make it fit. So pretty much you can guess what that means. It means that no off the shelf piping kit from Ross Sport, ETS would probably fit, but it's a lot of money. No off the shelf piping kit is going to fit for this specific application. So anybody can do this. If you have like a little bit of mechanical skill like me, get yourself onto eBay and you can buy 2.5 inch, 2.25 inch, 2.75 inch, 3 inch. You can buy pretty much any size intercooler piping kits you need. I think I paid 75 quid for this Max Speeding Rods kit. Yes, Max Speeding Rods is cheap, but it's 2mm wall aluminium tube. How different can you get? So this is going to be perfect because we're going to end up chopping most of it up anyway to get the angles and stuff that we need. But it is nice stuff, and I'm even going to go as far as saying the T-bolt clamps that it comes with are pretty good as well. Now I'm not sure whether or not I'm going to use these or I'm going to throw these in the bin and use Murray constant tension style clamps. However, I'm pretty sure these are going to be absolutely fine. And another reason I didn't really want to spend 650 quid is I spoke to my good contact at Ross Sport, and they don't do a piping kit that you can buy for these cars that has an inlet temperature sensor bung. Now, because I'm doing speed density, I need the bung welded on to the upper intercooler pipe so that the ECU can take the feed from the inlet air temperature sensor, so that it can work in tandem with the map sensor and work out the right fueling. Now, I wasn't going to pay 650 quid for some intercooler piping when I could probably buy two. I've bought 2 of these kits now, hacked up one to get the right sort of angles, and then this is a second one just to sort of finish the project. I wasn't going to spend that kind of money when I could spend 150 quid on 2 piping kits and then probably 50 quid having a good friend of mine weld them up. I wish that I could TIG weld myself and I had a TIG welder. Always time to learn, and I would love to learn how to weld aluminium, but for time's sake, I just bought these. I'm going to mock them up and then I'm going to get a good friend to weld them together. So if you guys are in the fortunate position, then this probably is a very viable option for you. So let's go ahead and get started. So if we go ahead and pull the bumper off, we've obviously got the intercooler core. Now, I bolted this up on the original brackets that are welded to the intercooler, but I made some brackets here to bolt them and space them onto the actual frame. Now, if I take this off of here, I'll put that back on in a minute though. Obviously got your oil cooler, so you're going to be a little bit stuck for clearance for the lower pipe. Now, the goal for me was to try and make these pipes as short route as possible without making the angles too harsh. Now, what I ended up doing with this lower one was I ended up using the first piping kit that I bought came with 2 180-degree bends. So I ended up using most of a 180-degree bend, and I ended up using a cut-off piece of a 45-degree in order to make it sort of not like a 180-degree straight round, but sort of like an off angle, and it actually positions it perfectly enough distance away from the radiator so it clears the radiator and it clears the front rad support, the oil cooler, and it aligns nicely into the intercooler inlet. Now I am going to have to bead roll this section here like this so that it doesn't pop the silicon coupler off. However, I am going to go about making one of those on the lathe, because all you've got to do is make one side with a protruding bump and then another side with a receding bump, and then you can wedge this in between it in a vise and just twist it round and it will bead roll it. So I'm going to go ahead and make those I will go ahead and make those at work once I'm happy with the routing of everything. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tape these all together, and then probably whilst I line them up, I'll put 2 pen marks on them so that when my welder takes the tape off, he knows where the 2 pen marks are to match them up together, and then he can just run a bead of weld around it. So that one there just slots in like that and then twists up flush with the radiator support mount, and then that will be the lower intercooler pipe from the turbo compressor outlet into the intercooler. So for the upper intercooler pipe, this is just a mock-up for the time being. However, this is pretty much going to be how it will lay out. So I don't want it to come up dead straight or like up along flush with the rocker cover. I want it to sit down low and have the best sort of downward swoop down to the intercooler to make this pipe nice and short. Now what this is there's a 90-degree bend at the top, and it's a 45-degree bend at the bottom. Now the silicone coupler and the clamps are there just primarily to hold these 2 pipes together. I will probably tape them because that doesn't look quite so good. But once I've got them in the right angle, which I'm fairly certain is going to be there, this upper intercooler pipe is fairly easy to mock up because you can pretty much just look at it and go, yeah, that'll be a 90, yeah, that'll be a 45, and that'll sort of roughly angle it in the right direction down towards this front corner here. However, the tricky part is the lower section from the intercooler that bends round to join up to this pipe. Okay, so the garage is a bit of a mess now. We have my just a super basic, this is really old now I think, it's a 110 volt, we've got the transformer on the floor. Nice little Makita miter saw, just with a standard tungsten carbide blade on it. Pretty much cut anything, wood, aluminium, works perfectly fine. Just so that we can get those perfect, dead straight cuts on the end of the aluminium. Now this is what we have ended up with so far, or I have ended up with so far. 90-degree there, this is just these 2 pipes here primarily for mock-up for the time being, because they're all a bit scratched and a bit shitty. But what we're aiming for is smack bang in the middle of the thermostat housing and the engine mount so that it looks even from the top. So this is a 90-degree, we've got a 45-degree here, and then we've gone down to another 45-degree to angle it towards this lower bend, which is a hacked up 180-degree. And what we're going to do now is line them up, draw a line here, shave this one down, draw a line here, shave this one down, and then hope that these 2 will meet up. Okay, so this is somewhat of the finished article. Now it goes down here and it clears 4-inch intake tube. So we've got a 90-degree into a 45-degree, and then into another 45-degree which disappears off under the chassis leg, and then you've got that 45-degree here that pops back out here, and it goes into this section here. So there's going to be a weld here, there'll be a weld there, and there'll be a weld there, and it'll be one complete piece. I won't bother putting a coupler in the middle because I don't want to. I'd rather take it on and off as one piece and go from there. So yeah. Okay, so the intercooler piping is back from Julian at Pro4M Motorsport after being welded. So I'm gonna let the B-roll speak for itself, but after you guys have slogged it all the way through this video, then this is the bit that you've all been waiting for. Julian absolutely killed it. And yes, I will be going back down for more stuff to be fabricated, so let me show you this.